Welcome to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. We're business coaches and retreat hosts for bold, purpose-driven women who are ready to build businesses that actually fit their lives.
This podcast is for the authentic, rebellious entrepreneur who's done playing by everyone else's rules. We know what works because we've lived it, coached it, and savored the journey.
Join us for real talk on business, life, and everything in between.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy, and I'm here with the amazing Krystal. And today we're going to talk about who don't you want to be? Hey, isn't that a magic question?
And why does that matter?
Exactly. And just a touch of backstory. I listened to the recent episode of the Wild Card podcast on NPR, and Melinda Gates was interviewed. Um, and actually I should say Melinda French Gates was interviewed. And this was a question that she had that she was starting to ask herself as she was in her own messy middle and transitioning into her new life. And it really did stop me in my tracks because I was like, wow, we spend so much time answering, who do you want to be? And I hadn't really given it any thought what the flip side of that. And who you want to be is such a really goal oriented, forward thinking, big picture kind of question. Whereas who don't you want to be really is a boundary. Yeah. So we thought that we would have a conversation about that.
Yeah, so what I love about the differentiation between this is, like you said, who do you want to be is so goal oriented. Sometimes it feels aspirational, which sometimes feels unachievable, especially to women, right? Like, I
Yeah.
would love to be this, but yeah, that must be nice, but that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And we use this question with our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you want to be? If you've listened to our podcast before, you've heard our backstory, you know, this was a big question that inspired me to do things like close down my travel business however many years ago. Wendy was my coach. She asked me this question. I had a midlife crisis. No, I'm kidding. I really sat there and thought, who do I want to be? And from there, kind of decided, okay, everything I'm doing is not in service to that. I think that sometimes people have real clarity on that, but I think when you're in the messy middle and you're so overwhelmed by all the hats that you're wearing and all of the roles that you're playing, there becomes a very fuzzy line between who you want to be and who you think you should be. So I think adding that other question and that layer of who do you not want to be helps at the very least eliminate some possibilities so you can get through that decision fatigue and narrow it down a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah.
And can really give you some clarity on the values that are driving you and all of the other things that are really important when you are trying to be the leader in your own life, maybe, or be intentional about the life you're trying to design.
Yeah. And I love that. I love how you just extrapolated the question into into relevancy, I think. You know, we talk so much about alignment and misalignment. And when you're feeling maxed out, when you're feeling all of these exhausted, the burnout, the I'm in transition, sometimes the who do I want to be does feel very abstract and overwhelming. But the alignment piece really is, or misalignment, and saying, who do I not want to be? Hey, you feel it immediately. you feel it that this is not allowing me to overthink and head in the future. This actually creates some clarity. Um, and it allows a truth to surface without forcing some level of optimism, if that makes any sense, you know?
Oh,
And, um, oh, what were you going to say?
well, I would even add there is a little bit of that that can be a catalyst for some bravery into who that you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be. And
Oh,
so there, I think that, sometimes there's some fear around like, and I'll give you an example. I want to be a world traveler. That feels aspirational and big and expensive and all of these things all at once. And there's a lot of audacity in that and all of that. Okay.
mhm,
Well, alternatively, who do I not want to be? I don't want to be a person who regrets not seeing things or experiencing things at the end of her life.
mhm,
And I think the fear of being that is enough to
mm,
push me out of my comfort zone to do the world traveling that I don't know if
mhm,
I'd be brave
mhm,
enough otherwise to do. And that's on a
mm.
personal level, but I think that there's some truth to that too.
No, and I think that's really beautiful. And it actually makes me think that the whole who do you want to be is almost in tandem with, okay, so what does that mean in terms of who you don't want to be?
Yeah.
Um yeah, because I was going to say um
Did we
that
just our whole coaching paradigm
yeah, we
on
could have.
this call? I
I
don't
know. We have
know.
such incredible clarity in these moments. And it's interesting because um and I think also there's a touch of vulnerability in this,
Mhm.
because like what I'm about to share, when heard this question, it sort of hit me a bit like a Mack truck, because it immediately brought to light two experiences that I've had in my past that have been sort of catalysts in in my journey. The first was, and this was probably, okay, so how old am I now? This was almost 30 years ago. And a person who is no longer a friend, and I'm not 100% sure well, was really a friend. We were actually vacationing. Yeah, vacationing together. And she looked at me and said, I wish I could be as ordinary as you. And at the time, I was I would guess I was struggling in my career. I was also struggling in I had just ended a relationship and was starting a new one. And so that was a struggle. And also I had changed jobs and wasn't super happy in my new job. So I didn't know, and she might have just meant that she was more beautiful than me. But for this came out, and it cut really, really deeply. And it has stuck with me. Uh, and I always think when what do I not want to be? I don't want to be ordinary. I don't. However, that is defined, I guess ultimately by me, not some random person. But it was just really something that has definitely, and I think what it ultimately comes down to is I don't want an ordinary life. I think that if I really think about it, and if I want to put a positive spin on it, I just don't want an ordinary life, which I think I have worked very hard to, both personally and professionally, to live up to that expectation. But gosh, that was painful.
I think it's funny how sometimes we can have these moments in our younger years that can fuel I think it's a mix of inspiration and a mix of spite a little bit. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I don't, and maybe that's just me because I can be a petty person. I'll be the first to admit it. And my character strengths, forgiveness is again that 24th out of 24. That's right. But it's kind of like a I'll show you mentality of things. But I think what's amazing about what I think you've done, because I've known you now for 6 of the last 30 years that you're speaking of, I
Yeah.
would have never described you as ordinary or as boring or as normal even. Nobody's
Yeah,
saying.
no, and it takes a lot of time and evolution because I really think that that particular moment really stuck with me up until about 10 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. And I know that I'm sure if I really want to psychoanalyze myself, which I don't think any of us really should be doing.
Not on this
Um
podcast anyway.
no, no, exactly. I'm sure and I was going to say, does anything pop into your mind that you want to share? Or I could just continue on my little roll.
Well, there's so many things, and I can actually give you both a personal and a professional example of
Mhm.
this. So, um, I think my personal example it precedes this version of my professional standing, but it was that I didn't want to have kids. And I think this was the first thing that popped into my head when you had presented this topic as a suggestion. I said I didn't want to have kids for a very long time. And it was because I didn't want to be my mom. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to continue the cycle of cray cray that just seems to exist in my family for generations and generations and generations. And I just thought, yeah, that just should really stop.
Mhm.
And when I met my now husband and we were dating, and I realized he did want kids, and I was kind of going to break up with him because I thought, yeah, you want kids and I don't. And I really do believe that that combination should not be together for a lot of reasons because somebody's compromising in a way that's not healthy in either direction. And I and he had said, I think that you would make a fabulous mom. I think that we would be fabulous parents because we know exactly what not to do, because he had also grown up in a pretty traumatic family environment. And it didn't change my mind immediately, but it did get the wheels turning. For the first time, it allowed me this idea to believe that I could be a good mom, which is one of my B goals,
Mm.
that I want to be. That's something I hadn't ever imagined for
Oh, and
myself.
you are.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think that's something I had never imagined for myself. And so just
Yeah.
by knowing what I didn't want to be, it also opened up this idea and this possibility that there are more ways to not be that thing, to just be better. And I think that helped
Mhm.
bring in to the professional example I would give is that, we went through a business breakup with an old business partner that had a really rough ending. And this person had threw a lot of daggers at the end of that. One of which was your general incompetence around business operations is no longer my problem. Do you remember that email? And it it stung.
Oi, oi.
Oi, right? And it stung,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I think
Yes.
one thing I was really proud of in that moment was I didn't respond to that barb. To this day, have never
Yes.
responded to that person's message. I let her have the final word and all of that. And I know that the kind of partnership I want to have and the kind of business I want to run and the values I want to bring into my professional world is that of kindness and of leading with that first. And I think it has one of the things, I think you bring the same thing to the table. I think it's what makes Serendipitous Rebel such an amazing place to work is that
Mhm.
I know what kind of business owner and partner I want to be. because I got a pretty clean example of what I did not want to be to somebody else.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That and it's interesting that we haven't necessarily had this conversation before, but we both, especially with the kindness piece of it, it is first and foremost, and not only um, between the two of us and within our circle, but also important for clients.
Yeah.
That is an imperative. That is an imperative. Yes. Um, these are such good examples. Um, I also think about 10 years ago, I started to feel invisible. I don't know if it was the start of menopause. I don't know what it was, but I really did start to feel very much invisible. And here I am working on being a female entrepreneur in the online space. And I'm like, who sees me? Who sees me? And I remember my husband and I were at a ball for, it was actually the Marine Corps ball. And we're all dressed up and we're all dolled up. And I have to say that we were in a very young environment, Marines are young, or they appear to be young. And we were out on the dance floor, and this one Marine kept bumping into me. It wasn't just once, it was repeated. And oddly enough, because they're usually incredibly polite, he never said anything. My husband chalked it off as him being under the influence of alcohol. I did not. I took it that, don't you see me? And it was that moment where I really thought, I want people to see me so they maybe won't step on my feet, impinge on my dancing, all of these sorts of, or actually it wasn't just the dancing, it was actually impinging on my ability to actually have a good time. And that also has stuck with me in terms of, I do not want to be invisible. Um, and I still at times, sometimes these things don't necessarily disappear with a snap of the finger. It's these are things you work on. I still someday am like, I am invisible. And that's where sometimes I get accused of being a little extra. Um, and I can actually relate it to why do I feel that I have to really go a little overboard on some things. Fortunately, I can't think of a work except maybe for uh over ideation. Oh, that could be why. That actually could be why, now that I think about it. That maybe I over ideate to a large extent because I want to be seen. I don't know. I'm when I over ideate, the only person that sees it is you. But that's good enough. Because again, my square squad is small, and I realize that there's not many people that I actually give a shit.
Well,
Um,
but I think that's a great example of how you can use what you don't want to be to motivate you in a positive way into something and channel it into something that's good, because
yeah,
you are the ideator of
yeah,
Serendipitous Revel, and um, there are so many beautiful things that come out of that. The Savor
yeah,
framework, all of our amazing challenges, our newsletter content, guys, is all through the brains of Wendy. And so I think it's really looking at, this is how you show up to be visible. I want to be visible. And it's motivated by this feeling of not wanting to be invisible. And I think that's a really great way to say, hey, this is how I'm going to make this functional. And because
yeah.
of so much of what you don't want to be, you know, I don't want to live the ordinary life. I definitely feel that. I don't want to be a bad business partner. I don't want to be financially insecure. That's a huge driver for me. I know.
Hmm.
I don't want to be insecure financially in retirement. So that's a huge motivator for me to work through things um, and save it the way we do, and the way and plan for the future the way we do now. That's a huge driver for me. And so I think it's just understanding with people, these are ways to help you eliminate some of the negative things in your life. And I think it's really important though to take the next step though and just say, okay, well, how is that going to translate in how I show up intentionally?
Exactly.
And I think that's the differentiator. I think that's what Melinda French Gates really kind of took in that interview that you would listen to. I listened to that clip, and I think that she just did this beautiful job of just saying so much of things are in my life are in service of what I don't want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I need to make changes. And think about that when you think about business owners and think about our audience, right? So many of us go into the online space or into owning our own business because of something we didn't want in our corporate
Mm-hmm.
life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a person that is a slave to my desk from 9 to 5. I don't want to be on call
Mm-hmm.
24/7. I don't want to work nights and weekends. I say that because we both came from
Mm-hmm.
events and meetings industry, and that's guess when meetings and events, and I did a lot of weddings. Guess when people get married, it's nights and weekends. Um,
Yes.
I don't want to be um I don't want to be talked down to or degraded all the time in my job, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to feel guilty about missing time with my kids. I don't want to feel
Right.
bad about all of the doctor's appointments I have to take my kid to. I don't want to do all these things. That is really the driving force that I have brought into every business that I have created is I don't want any of this. So we're going to create a business that's in service of the things I do want to be.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think the beauty of that is, and what really lends itself to the entrepreneurial world is that with the right tools, um, we are able to create what it is that we want.
Hmm.
That, as you said, that is in service to the life that we want. And I
Yeah.
think that's so powerful. It is so powerful. Yeah. And really important, and such an important thing as we enter the later years, it becomes more and more important, um, that we understand that we matter, that
Hmm.
we don't take a back seat. And I actually shouldn't say it, it should actually be that case from well, from childhood, from birth. Actually, we always should matter. We always should, um take up whatever space we want without any apology, um and that we should be allowed to be the authentic, whatever adjective you want to add into that. I could be the most authentic, crazy, whatever, non ordinary person in the whole world. And there should be no apology with that. Yeah.
No, there shouldn't, but I think it it really comes back. That's why align with your passion and purpose is a key
Hmm.
pillar of Savor, right? This is
Hmm.
the alignment piece. And I think this is a
Hmm.
great question that helps you really ask yourself if you are aligned, because it asks that key question of and this is where it was really such an important question for me when you asked this of me, who do you want to be? Okay. That was in a season
Oh,
of my life where I understood everything that I was doing professionally and everything
yeah.
else was in service of what I did not want to be.
Uh-huh. Well, and the interesting part of that question is, the not in that question is, who do you want to be that is not financially tagged?
Mm,
Because that was the one that was part of that whole thing.
I don't remember that part. Say more.
Um, Maybe it wasn't the who do you want to be, but oh, it was what were your successes, and they couldn't be. I'm sorry, I got it a little mixed up.
Well,
It
that's
was
okay.
what were your successes, But the piece of it was, who do you want to be that's not tied specifically to finances, which allowed more and greater exploration, I think. But
I
anyway,
agree.
I digress.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the very fact that what I hope people take away from this conversation is setting boundaries is a really good, healthy thing to do. And if you actually set them as early on as you can, I mean, and that's not easy. It is so not easy. And it's interesting because I think about conversations that we've shared and that we've heard from our daughters. Good Lord, they know how to set boundaries already, to
Hmm.
which I am it's just such a proud glowing moment.
Sure. And sometimes really obnoxious as a parent, but I digress.
Right, yeah. Very true, but it's all, but these are those things that we hope that you can really hold on to, grasp on and hold on to early on, um because it serves you so well as you go through life.
Hmm.
Setting boundaries when you've been married for 25 years and the kids you're empty nesting, it becomes harder. I think it really becomes harder because you're set in your ways, and it's harder, I think, to get inside your head. So I guess the public service announcement here is, try to work boundaries and what is not working for you early on,
Hmm.
and make adjustments that you can, or as early on as you see them, and don't wait, though it really is never too late to make changes at the
It's
same
never
at the
too
same
late,
time.
but I think the earlier you can catch on to that, I think the more joyful your life feels. And
Yeah,
I think again, there's something so blissful about feeling that you are in alignment and that you're living this life that you want, and so discouraging if that's not how you're feeling. And I think
yeah,
the big piece of that is like, who do I not want to be? And what are you doing that's in service to that? And what can you change?
I love it, I love it. Yeah. Well, I hope this has been as enlightening for our listeners as it is for us. I do love our podcast
I
just
know.
because it's
So
like our own little personal therapy sessions.
so nice. It's so nice to process out loud. Well, I love it too
Yeah.
when people send me DMs or messages. So yeah, please DM us, send us messages if this has resonated with you. Those are like such nice little bright spots when those pop up of like, this really spoke to me today.
Yep.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, until next week, we are so excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about our upcoming masterminding opportunities on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.
Hey, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.